So here I am playing Axis Empires, and something that came up that Thomas Prowl noted during my play, where I actually was cheating against the Axis, and they probably need all the help they can get at this point, just with how poorly they're doing, especially in Europe. I mean, in China, the Japanese are doing quite well because of how well I've cheated for them. But in this particular case, the Paris threatened event, if you look in the rules on that, and it's hard to remember when all these events get triggered, you essentially, I guess, in order to catch all of these, really have to look. In this case, it's going to be in somebody's conditional events, these permanent conditional events. You have to really look and check all of these and be aware of the possibility of any of them firing off. And that's not a terrible thing, but it's very easy on a first play to forget. Anyway, one of the two effects of that, one of them I missed, which was before, which was, hey, what about the troops? Well, I caught the troops last turn, but what I missed was the Axis gets an influence marker in, well, let's see where. Let's make sure. I think it's in any adjacent country, but it may be adjacent to France. Now, we also had the fall of France, which it was pointed out between the two of them I could have brought Italy into the war. Instead, I ended up bringing Vichy into the war at the fall of France, but this other one, if I can get the rule book under control, yeah, this isn't going to happen. Yeah, shit. Easily here. Hard to do it one-handed. It can be any neutral or friendly minor country. So in this case, what I'm going to do, because I'm not going to be able to trigger Italy or Switzerland for that matter directly into the war, instead I'm going to put that marker, the influence marker, over in Poland, which I'd like to get to join. Having caught this at this later point, well, yeah, it does skew the time a little bit, but I don't think it's going to be too big a deal. All right, on to the Axis turn, and I'm going to be picking their cards. So the card I initially had selected for the Japanese was the Chinese settlement, and upon consideration, it just seemed horrible. Now, this is cheating again, but I'm going back on that and said, okay, I want the tripartite pact. Here's what I want to do. Here's what I'm going to define that I want to do in this game at this point. What I want to do is I want to grab into China using the tripartite pact. That all seems simple. Now I want to go to war with England. I've got enough points here that if I can grab a couple English territories, what happens? I can take them, keep them, slap a pact into place, and say, I'm not at war with England anymore. I've got a truce policy, and then I can go on to the U.S. As it stands right now, I can't get anything out of the Chinese. I mean, I get a setback by having peace with the Chinese at this point. There's no real advantage to it with Hopei and Yunnan going to abandon me. So I want to direct my power into India in order to help, not necessarily grab Indian territories, but in particular I want Rangoon. I want to gain a holding here in Brunei. I want Rabaul. And whatever else on the list that I can grab that looks valuable, so that I can turn things around, create my perimeter, and say, okay, this is where, because that's kind of how I understand it, I get to slap a marker down and it helps protect my victory point situation on this map. So that's what I want to do. But I'm looking through the Japanese cards, and I don't see how I go to war with England. So now I'm looking through the policy rules again, trying to figure this out and see, hey, can I do this involuntarily? I could do it through maybe some of these. And I could go with a car. I could actually place a support unit and maybe violate it. But I'm not sure I can do that because I can't violate a policy in pre-war I can't end a neutrality or surrender. Is that what I have here? I have lapsed treaties. I think that's treaty. I don't think that's one of those. Unless I can simultaneously place what? I don't know. And I think I can just break my treaty with the Brits without there being any problem. So I'm going to pick another card that I think will work well and use the tripartite pack. Over on the German side, I played New World Order. We'll see if that has any effect. I haven't picked my card for them either. So the net effect of all that appears to be that the Japanese have taken Indochina and are preparing themselves for further movement. I don't know when that's going to happen. And then over, and God knows, because I have to try to plan the damn weather. It's so unfamiliar to me. So I'm actually looking at when does the monsoon hit. It's going to be hitting this pink stuff, which is northern monsoon, which means I probably want to do it pretty soon, at least in the spring. When summer comes, it's going to be hard. And that's the majority of my stuff. Some of it's going to be south monsoon, which is also going to be kind of in the summer again. That it's going to be what? Blue. Blue means snow. That doesn't sound good. Okay. And then over here on the Germans with their New World Order, what did they get out of it? Well, they were hoping to trigger Poland. They didn't get that. Instead, what they did was they removed Romania's pro-Russian stance. And you see over here the remains of the Battle of Britain. Essentially, this is just fighting over whether or not the Germans get a crossing. Well, the Brits can't allow that, but the Germans are not using their Air Force right now. So they're going to play it out, even though they don't think they can win it. They do seem to have an advantage in total air forces. So, you know, if they trigger this out, if it falls right, well, maybe they can push the issue. It doesn't feel like it right now, though. All right, and this is going to go away because it's not going to be there. Let's move on to the other powers, the Allied ones. For the Western Allies, we see the oil embargo start. That throws it and some troops into the delay box. They got a delay reduction off the conditional event. Couldn't get anything more useful. Over here, support of the Republicans ends up being a victorious battle, and still the Spanish Civil War is going on. On to the Ruskies. And for the Russians, we see the border defense card coming up, just the past, basically. And over here, the Red Army mobilization, which is their mobilization card for the year. Last of their forces on the board. We're at the end of the winter here. And we'll be going into January, February turn, where I've got a bunch of stuff with the delay boxes to move forward. But we can definitely look at. Now, we looked at the French army and said, wow, that was potent. Now we're looking at the Russian army and saying the same kind of thing. Wow, there's a lot of them out here. But, you know, it could just be that that big German army, when it sets forward, is just going to smash in, just like historically, and come pounding through, no matter how big that Russian army is to start. That you can't get enough troops on the board. And that's true with a lot of these World War II games, that Russia just doesn't have the options to put up the kind of defense, even though they've been given all this time. It's just not there. We can see that the Axis is still kind of delaying as long as possible on the total war. Why? No real reason, except that there's stuff that they can gain without pushing the war forward. And they want to keep working in that direction. So, for example, you'll see there's a lot of German troops that aren't yet placed. Why should I worry when there's almost nothing left for the Russians to place? And that's kind of a feeling I have. I don't know how reasonable it is. Again, maybe accelerating the war is a perfectly reasonable solution, but so far, it's felt like I don't want to. Same issue with Japan. They've still got some forces available. There's things they can do, in particular with them, to try to advance and get more of these green areas. For the Germans, they want to win the war in Spain if they can, and they want to take some more miners if they can. Why not? Well, we'll see. So pushing onward into this winter turn, January, February, we're in 1940 again? I thought we were in 40 before. God damn it. The only thing I can say is we're probably in 41. Let me make sure. Yeah. I think these just all got placed. And I'll figure they're just in the wrong year. Alright, into 1941, and I've got these Russians allies to put on the board. These are going to be on the Japanese map, obviously. So, two issues. One is I start looking at the weather and thinking about how I want to launch my attack on the English. And as soon as I start looking at it, I see the way the monsoons are set up. So I'm worried about the northern monsoon region and the southern monsoon region, pretty much for the things I want that Britain holds, so that I can force them into surrender instead of going for the Chinese nationalists, because I don't see an advantage to that. Okay, so right now we've got mud in the southern monsoon, and we know that's a problem. But then we start going through this. Oh, south is New Zealand. No wonder that gets snow. Okay, we start going through this, and we see the northern monsoon is going to have trouble in the middle of the summer, all the way through August, September, and then the southern monsoon through the winter. And the only time that I'm actually safe in both is a few turns here, and I'm not going to have my convoys this year for that. Which means if I'm going to launch my attack, I may want to just do it. I may just want to go into Burma and start this thing. I can't go into Siam. Another thing I was looking up was the effect of submarines outside the strategic warfare box. They have an effect on the strategic warfare box, one that's very similar to the oil embargo that's coming up, just a penalty to the delay reduction. Well, something in the discussions that these videos have engendered indicated that the English could be prevented from, say, resupplying into Norway or something along those lines if there was a German sub there. Well, I can't find the role. I didn't look terribly hard because it's not vital to my decisions right now. But it was kind of disturbing because this is what I keep running into. I'm often not able to find rules that I don't know are there, or that I suspect are there, but I'm not sure where they are. And I can hunt them down and finally find them. But in this case, I didn't want to look too hard. But frankly, I couldn't find it. I can find the one on the strategic warfare. I can find that I can place the sub there, but I don't see what it does. And there's no links between these things. And that's actually, again, the same issue brought up again and again and again. But the truth of the matter is, it's very hard to figure out what the hell you're trying to do in this game when you're faced with that again and again. If there were one or two places where the cross-linking didn't exist well, hey, mistakes happen. But it's a pretty serious problem, to tell you the truth. And I don't know if I should pull open my my old Totaler Krieg again and look up, hey, how does subs work in that? Because that has some cross-linking in it to a better degree. All right, enough ranting. Let's get on with the play. Well, the Germans managed to lose their influence over Poland off the New World Order card, which is a pity. They kind of wanted to move Poland into their camp. And over here we see the Japanese moving into position. We'll see how the Allies react to this. Well, there's not a lot they can do in the East. The Brits just don't have the forces to really react with. They're kind of sitting there, waiting for the Japanese to seize Burma. and then see what else they can do. That when they're attacked, they will have their Far Eastern forces triggered, so they'll have more of an ability to intervene in things. Things look pretty grim over here in Europe, though. Germany can't get a grasp on something it wants to do with the cards it's got. We're moving into a new card play segment here for the spring of 41, and we'll see how that works out. All right, let's I guess roll this one up and send it to you and get a new one going.